Good morning. My name is Jake Wynn, and today I'm going to tell you about some different types of fishing. I've spent a lot of hot summer days sitting out on a riverbank and getting no bites and going home with no fish. So, to help you guys avoid that situation, I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks on some things that I've learned. I chose to do my speech over fishing because out of the 14 kids in our class, um, all of them but two are interested in fishing and have experienced fishing, going out and stuff. And all of them but two wanted to learn more about fishing, wanted to learn some tips and tricks about it. So I started fishing when I was young, and I have fished ever since. I loved it as soon as I started. And I've also done lots of research. I've read some books over it. I've watched videos over it. So I know quite a bit about fishing. Um, the different types of fish that I'm going to tell you about today are bass and catfish. And I'm going to start off by talking about some bass fishing. So, the three types of bass fish that I'm going to tell you about are largemouth, smallmouth, and white bass. All bass like to live in farm ponds, lakes, and along the river. I personally prefer farm ponds, and that's where I catch most of my fish. But today I'm going to start off by talking about the largemouth bass. So largemouth are usually a greenish color, and they have horizontal stripes going down their body. Usually they weigh around 10 to 12 pounds and are about 15 inches long. Some largemouth bass have been known to weigh as much as 22 pounds, and largemouth bass get their names because their jaws extend past their eyes. So when their mouth widens, it is it's a large mouth. It goes past their eyes, so that's where they get their name from. So next, I'm going to tell you about a smallmouth bass. Smallmouth are generally more brown, and they have vertical stripes on their body. They're much more of a fight when reeling in. They like to bite your hook, and then they just take off. So they're usually pretty fun to catch. They usually average around 12 inches, and they weigh about 5 to 6 pounds. So they're significantly smaller than largemouth. The third type of bass I'm going to tell you about is white bass. White bass are usually a silver/whitish color, and they weigh about 3 to 4 pounds, and they're generally about 12 to 13 inches long. So they're kind of in between a largemouth and a smallmouth, but they're white and silver color to them makes them they're a pretty fish. So all bass prefer to live under logs or in between rocks to protect them from other fish and animals in the water. So today, when I talk about my lures, I'm going to tell you about some lures that I like to use, and um, some of when you're catching bass, your lures have to be able to get pretty deep. So when you're reeling in and they're moving along, the bass can see them and be attracted to them, so they bite your hook. So I usually use a minnow with a spinner on it. Um, I like also using chatterbait, and from my visual aid, you will see that I have pictures of some lures that I use, and I also explain how the spinner works and stuff like that. I also learned by doing my research for this project that bass are attracted to the color red, and there have been bass that have been known to live for 20 to 25 years. And I learned that from AmericanExpedition.us. So next, I'm going to tell you about some catfish. I'm going to tell you about four types of catfish. I'm going to talk to you about channel, blue cats, bullheads, and flatheads. So I'm going to start off with blue cat and channel because they have a lot of similarities. They're both smooth, and their body is scaleless, so they have no scales on their body. And channels are not as big. Usually they average about 5 to 20 pounds and about 24 inches long. The largest reported channel cat weighed in at 57.9 pounds, according to FWD.gov, and that was a fishing website I used for my speech. Blue cats are generally blue. They're like a bluish, grayish color, and they have white bellies. So their belly's white, and then starting like from right here up from their side, they're usually grayish / blue. They're typically bigger. They usually average around 20 to 40 pounds and are about 25 to 40 inches. So they're one of the biggest cats in the water. The largest reported the largest reported blue cat weighed in at 130 pounds, and I got that from AmericanExpedition.us. So next, I'm going to tell you about bullheads. Bullheads are generally the smaller of the catfish family. Usually they weigh around 2 to 5 pounds, so they're not real big, and they're about 15 inches long. Usually they're a green color, and they live at the bottom of the lake in the kind of that murky water. Next, I'm going to talk about flatheads. Flatheads are generally the largest of the catfish family, averaging 25 to 46 inches, and they can weigh up to 123 pounds. And 123 pounds is also the state record in Kansas for flatheads, according to KansasOutdoors.com. Catfish like to feed on the bottom of the lakes, rivers, and ponds. This is why when you're fishing for catfish, you usually use a bobber and a weight on their line so they can get deeper than usual, than like say when you're bass fishing. I personally have had the best luck of catching catfish with shatter worms, and I have some pictures of some worms in my visual aid. And that sums up my speech about fishing. So I know for a lot of people, they don't like fishing because they aren't catching anything. So I just hope that my speech gave you some tips and tricks that'll help you next time you go out. Thank you.